All right, well, greetings all my Arcadians out there, and welcome back to Rob's Arcade. I am your host, Rob French, and it is Thursday, which means it is time for Throwback Thursday Comics. Now, Throwback Thursday Comics is a new segment I'm trying out where basically I just take old comics that have kind of like some dull bags and boards, and then I decide, hey, let's rebag and board these guys and give them a fresh look. Now, I did this last week with some comics, and the outcome was actually like really surprising. I did a before and after shoot and then posted it at the end of the video, and I was like blown away at how beautiful just a new bag and board can make a comic book look. Sometimes this plastic gets a little dull and dingy, the boards get a little yellow, and I don't always like rebag and get new bags and boards for my comics. Bags and boards can be kind of pricey, sometimes even a little hard to come by. In fact, the current size bags and boards were out at my new shop, so I got some Silver Age. Now, Silver Age, there's three different sizes. I'm going to go ahead and school you guys real quick before we jump into these comics. You have three different ages of comics. Now, there's the current age, which basically is all of your stuff like, well, here we go. New Shang-Chi by Marvel, kind of leading up to the movie release. And as you can see, the comic fits very neatly inside the board and the bag. There's not a lot of room. It's almost like cradle inside the board and the bag. Now, there's a Silver Age, which I want to say deals with comics produced around like the 60s era, if I'm not mistaken. And then there's the Golden Age, which I feel like is the 30s and 40s era of comics. Now, my local shop was out of the current bags and boards, but they do have the Silver Age. Now, as you can see, the Silver Age is a little bit bigger. You've got a little bit more room here on the side, a wee bit more room here on the top. The comic kind of wiggles around in there a little bit more. You can kind of see there side by side the difference. But, I mean, bags and bags. A Golden Age bag and board would probably be like way too big. It's almost like a magazine size. But Silver Age works pretty well for current size and books. And they're getting some more current size bags and boards in very soon. And I figured, like, I'm not going to use, because they come in like packs of 100 when you buy these guys. I'm not going to use all 100, I'm sure, between now and the time they actually get current size in. So I thought, well, why don't I utilize some of these extra bags and boards and go ahead and, you know, go through my collection and see if there's anything within my boxes that need replacing. And I had, like I said, a lot of fun last week. Hopefully you guys remember where I left off. I think I got through the A through I's and then the H through S's and Marvel. So now we're going to jump into the S's through the W, I believe. Yeah. All right. Now I just showed you some Shang-Chi. A lot of these actually look really good. A lot of these are pretty new. A lot of Star Wars. So a lot of this stuff is pretty new here. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Boom. Now these look a little yellow. The boards do anyway. Oh wow, all of these are the same here from the same series. Now, this is really funny. I've read the first, I want to say like 2-3 issues of the series, like a half a dozen times. I got 4 issues of this Tech World by William Shatner. And as you can see, the hero looks very much like William Shatner there on the front. Now, I haven't read this all the way through. It's based off of his sci-fi novel, Tech World. And I just kind of feel like, William Shatner was like, hey man, all these Star Trek nerds, if you will, they love my stuff, they love me. So he kind of came up with this whole new character, this whole persona, I think kind of like based off of his own, ego, if you will, his own ego and his own personality of like himself fighting this war out in outer space and everything. So I don't know, it's pretty fun. I enjoy reading it just because I enjoy stuff like RoboCop, Total Recall, any of those things that deal with like a current universe that we live in, current world that we exist in, that's kind of melded with this modern sci-fi kind of thing, like Back to the Future 2. It's like very much like people just getting sodas and Pepsis and hanging out, skating, but on hoverboards and not skateboards and that kind of thing. Total Recall is basically a vacation movie. If you like, Total Recall is basically like a vacation movie set in like a modern futuristic world. So I love stuff like that. So yeah, I'm definitely going to get that guy a new bag and board. Like, this is actually going to be really easy. This is going to be a pretty short one. Here we go. Just had one. Oh, okay. This guy definitely needs a new bag and a new board. And this is actually an interesting comment. This is going to be really fun to talk about here. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with comics, there is something called Free Comic Book Day. Now, I just found out that a lot of companies are taking advantage of Free Comic Book Day to get people to come in, I guess, for like muffins and massages and tire rotations or something. Like, I was talking with the owners at the comic shop I visit, and they're like hoarding free comics to give away for other things, and the comic shops are having, I think, a hard time getting hold of free comics for Free Comic Book Day. Is that weird? I think that's kind of weird. Anyway, this thing's kind of beat up a little bit. It's an older, it's got a hole right here in the back. This guy definitely needs a new home. This is an older issue of X-Men, the Ultimate X-Men, but it's kind of based on the modern story, and I really like this issue. It's X-Men, Ultimate X-Men #1 for Free Comic Book Day, The Tomorrow People. And it's very much like the first movie that Bryan Singer brought us, where you have a lot of the X-Men kind of hanging out in that yellow blue spandex, but then later on fighting in the cool leather that they have. It also reminds me a lot of the first episode of the Fox animated series from the 90s, because they're dealing with mutants being targeted, and then the X-Men show up to kind of handle, the situation. But it also reminds me a lot of the very first issue of X-Men from 1963, I guess, where you have basically just this very young superhero group, and it's basically the same group plus Storm. She wasn't in the very first X-Men group, but she did make her run, her appearance in the second run with the Giant Size, with Nightcrawler and Colossus, Banshee, basically all of like the international members of X-Men, if you will. The Canadian Wolverine. They were all kind of introduced in that Giant Size #1 X-Men in the 70s, I believe. Now, speaking of Wolverine the Canadian, he's featured on the cover, which is something I kind of want to talk about, because a lot of times you'll see covers with comic books that actually have nothing to do with with what's actually going on inside the issue. Wolverine actually doesn't even make an appearance in this comic book. Like, you have him here on the cover, like running into battle, ready to go. He's not even in this thing, to be honest with you. But that's just a way of like, selling comic books. The idea of like moving comics is a visual medium, media first. And like, so if you visually can sell a comic, then, that's where you want to strike your audience. Now, once they get the issue home and they start to read it and they get blown away by the writing, which this one's written by Mark Millar, amazing writer. And then the art's done by Andy Kubrick, I want to say. I know it's done by one of the Kubrick. Yeah, Adam Kubrick. But just amazing, amazing art, amazing story. And I kind of feel like that's like, you know, how you want to sell a comic. And that goes back even to like with Captain America back in the days with, you know, Captain America, and, you know, a lot of his issues would show him like punching out Nazis and knocking out Hitler. But the issue would have nothing to do with Nazis or Hitler on the inside, but that was a way of appealing to the audience. And like, how do we sell this book? Well, I mean, Wolverine's the coolest at the time. All these X-Men movies are coming out. He's like the hottest selling issue right now. Let's put Wolverine on the cover, and that'll help us to move that book. So that's pretty clever, guys. Well, this is one I kind of pulled out first. Warhead's Black Dawn 1 of 2. I want to go back, maybe Urban Legend Comics will have the second issue to this. This will be fun, like kind of fun to get a hold on the whole story. It's only 2 issues, right? Why not go back, check that out. Oh, this definitely has not had a new home since I probably bought this issue. What If, new series coming to Disney Plus, looks really cool. And this was one of the titles that actually kind of just inspired me to kind of come up with my own stories, my own ideas, because that question, what if, I think it's the most inspirational question you can ask yourself. Well, what if? What if Captain Marvel and Spider-Man went on a date? Like, what if, you know, the Incredible Hulk was blue? Like, there are these simple little questions that you can ask. What if the new what if the new Fantastic Four had remained a team? It just provides a really cool, really fun issue. So this guy definitely should get a new home. Let's see, what else do we have in here? Oh, okay, so we're hitting this section here, which is basically the bulk of my guys. I'm gonna go ahead and take a look at some of these Wonder Men, maybe. No, it's actually not too bad. Get off my Red Bulls. I'm about to get all jacked up. My wife just actually came out. I thought I was hearing voices, to be honest, like a little, hey, I got this thing. That's like a monster in the room. I was like, oh my God, what am I hearing in the background? I didn't even want to like acknowledge it. I was actually afraid to look up because I'm like, I hear this. I was like, there's gonna be a fucking ghost standing, like, this is my typical day, you know, this is what's gonna be happening to me. Haunted cars with their alarms blaring in the middle of the night, keeping me awake, and now there's like a ghost in the room. It was just my wife letting me know she's stealing one of the Red Bulls. We need it. We had the, oh my gosh, worst night last night. Car alarm just going off in the parking lot for no reason. Finally, the battery died. Most amazing, most pleasurable feeling ever, just knowing just like die. All right, so all those look pretty good, the Wondermans I was looking at, but Wolverine, this was the guy who started it all for me, and a lot of his bags and boards just look really dull. This one's, I think, even got hair on it. Yeah, no, we're gonna re-bag and board a lot of these. Now, you guys have probably hung out with me in the past, and you know, heard me talk about Wolverine and the Punisher, especially as well. And these are the 2 characters that really got me into superhero comics. Before that, I was really just into, oh yeah, this guy's got like marks all over the bag. So I think my whole Wolverine collection is going to get rebacked and boarded, you guys. I think the whole thing this is going to happen. But like I said, before Wolverine and the Punisher, really the only thing I was into were like horror comics, sci-fi, Tales from the Crypt, Tales of Mystery, Tales of Horror. Then one day I went to the comic shop, or not the comic shop, the grocery store, and I just happened to, oh, look at this. This thing's got like faded lettering from like a whole other comic book or something on the back. Oh, this guy's definitely needs a new home. But yeah, one day I just happened to hit the grocery store with my dad, and it was, you know, stuff like this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this just looks so cool. How can I pass this up as a kid? You know what I mean? Like, I'm 12 years old, 13 years old, 12 years old, and this hits the newsstand. I mean, come on, this was amazing. So Wolverine was definitely that guy that got me from like horror comics into superheroes. And you know, once you get to Wolverine and the Punisher, I feel like Spider-Man, the X-Men, all of these things are just kind of like a, you know, hop, skip, and a jump away. You know, a lot of times people will say like, oh man, if you try weed, you know, one day you're gonna be smoking meth and doing crack cocaine and all of that. You know, hey, I've smoked weed before, and it's definitely not a gateway drug. Like, I don't think I've ever done cocaine. Like, I've never done crack, heroin, any of these crazy things that they say like weed will lead you to this road or whatever. Doesn't happen. But I will say Wolverine and Punisher were definitely gateway comic books. These were gateway drugs. These were the comic books that opened my mind to Spider-Man, to open my mind to the Incredible Hulk, you know, basically created this addiction that I have on a weekly basis to where I have to get to the comic book shop, pick up my new issues, and I continually go back and read old issues and just really have a fun time with this hobby of mine. And so I think it's really interesting, you know, Marvel's even been persecuted at times for doing issues on like drug awareness, like stay away from PCP, stay away from acid, stay away from pills, stay away from these things that are going to cause you harm, these hallucinogens, these things that are really going to mess up your life. And, you know, they've been kind of persecuted for it by the Comic Book Code and other companies. And now it's, you know, kind of mainstream to tell these stories, but Marvel set out to kind of like, you know, advise people about, you know, stay away from drugs. And so many writers and so many artists will tell you that growing up, it worked. Like, they didn't touch drugs and they didn't drink and they didn't do these things that their friends were doing because of the Spider-Man comic that they read when they were in high school, or when they read when they were in middle school. But it started a whole new addiction for them, which is going to the comic book shop every week, or staying up till 2 o'clock to meet that deadline because they now work in the comic book industry and they now draw and write comic books for DC and for Marvel. So it's very interesting when I look back at like my you know, my high school years, my middle school years, those years where I guess like your parents kind of wonder and worry like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen with this guy? You know, is he going to get mixed in with the wrong crowd? And you know, I think we all kind of hang out with the bad kids and we try all the wrong stuff. But what's really funny is the one thing that really stuck with me, my comic books. Like, that's been my number one addiction. This guy was my gateway drug. And I just want to thank you guys. We made it through another box. I think we're going to end it right here. Thank you so much for hanging out, you guys. Let's go ahead and take a look at what it looks like with these new bags and boards. I'm telling you, like, the result is absolutely amazing. I did not think it would look this cool, but these books look brand new. New bag and board, they look brand new. Anyway, guys, thanks for hanging out. Please do me a favor, comment down below. Please like the video. Please share the video, because that's the only way I'm going to get new subscribers. And if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe, guys. Catch you next week for Throwback Thursday comic books. What do we got? Maybe one more box of Marvel? Hit some DCs or something? Sounds like a lot of fun, guys. All right, thanks for hanging out. And oh, of course, this isn't goodbye, just to be continued. Until next time, don't spend a quarter anywhere else. Later.